Oh, it's live.
Sure.
It happened. Oh God.
Sure, why
Guess what's not working yet?
Why?
Why ask what? But dry. Oh crap. We're late. We know it. Just...
Whatever. Hey. At this rate, you guys are having a night show.
There you go. We do have better music now, though. That's what it is. You know what I don't have? I don't got chat.
Chat.
Nope, never do.
Never do.
If I have to go ahead and do my own review this year, it's gonna be never has chat really ready on time. It'd be like,
oh, just do our own like review of our own channel.
Like, oh,
look at old
never,
videos and be like, gosh.
never has chat ready.
That'd be a special show where we talk about ourselves in the past.
Like, you're gonna have to bring me into your office and be like, Mike, we have to talk about your chat not being ready. You don't have enough.
We could sit down and get done to talk to ourselves. That could be one of our produced videos. We could like review our own show.
That'd be great.
And be like, so Corey, you really didn't prepare enough for this episode, did you? And be like,
you seemed a little off. You seemed down. You seemed out of your norm. So
I'm gonna write that down. I actually kind of like that.
All right. I don't know. What am I gonna call here? I don't know. I'm gonna call Ghostbusters. Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Yes, sir. So many good movies coming out.
Oh, I got more ideas for that. I'll send you a video later. That's kind of like my idea.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna call it. Let's say 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Now I'll say 10 seconds because I have a clock. 5.
Because I can
4,
tell time.
3, 2, 1, and hey, it's for horses. Hi everyone, welcome. Not Your Average Show. Mike Corey here. August, what is it? 12th, 2021.
12. 1, 2.
Yeah, 1, 2. That's 12. And hi.
1, 2 makes 3.
1, 2. We are doing a remote show today, but we got a lot to discuss. Just give you a quick intro on the title of what we got. 50% of all new car sales will be EVs by 2030. Can it be done? That's a pretty big, lofty goal there. We're going to discuss some things we found in the background, doing some basic, and I do mean basic research. Lamborghini Countach. Oh my God. The Countach could be here. Yeah, actually, Lamborghini has announced
a new
one. So we got some stuff to talk about there as well. And cool. Foxconn making EV platforms, possibly for a manufacturer we've already talked about here on the show. And also the Amiga 500 Mini makes a triumphant return if you are a fan of the computing days of old. I am excited because I first learned how to compute basically on an Atari 400, 800, and then an Amiga. And a Trash 80, by that matter. So we got that to talk about. How are you doing today, Corey, in the remote location?
Doing well over here in the remote location. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, doing well.
So for Corey has had to enter the witness protection. No, he's in a secret remote location. No,
I am now streaming to you over an encrypted channel. So talk about games and cars.
Actually, no, that's not actually happening. He's just doing a remote show because we agreed that to be out of the studio on Thursdays. So there's that. And tomorrow we look to be either on a golf course or with golf sticks in our hands. That should be fun.
Something, yeah.
Something.
While we're dodging rain droplets.
Something like that. We hope. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. So how are you doing today? Good? Everything's good? Yeah. Fine?
Yeah,
fun?
Doing well. Nothing
nothing
really
new. Okay, good. Well,
doing well.
Then with that, let's get started, shall we?
So much, yes.
So much angst. Is that
so much emotion.
It's right here. Okay, so I have to reverse the order of what I got these things in here, so you got to give me a second before we get started, because we want to make, so here's the thing, we want to make the discussion about the EVs a little bit more longer format at the end, because it actually entails a couple of different little teasers and conversation pieces in that conversation, so that's important to us to bring that full fold. But what's really important to me as well, though, as you guys know, we're big gamers here on the channel. Although we haven't streamed on our Twitch accounts in a long time because we just actually have enjoyed gaming privately more more recently than anything. But maybe we'll get that back going soon. But on that note, if anyone is a child of the 80s and does remember, God, some of the best video games from developers like Psygnosis and games like Out of This World and others like Virus. There were some fantastic games in what was probably the true first and only multimedia computer back in that genre and era. And that is the Amiga 500. It was making a triumphant return. This is coming to us from New Atlas and basically saying that it's on its way, it's in development, and it will be here on store shelves 2022. Now, there's a lot going on here because basically, if you're a huge fan of multimedia computing, this was the baby, the brainchild. You might have had an Amstrad, you might have had something else, but this is 80s chic classic. This thing played all the great games: Another World, Alien Breed 3D. It's gonna have Battle Chess installed on it, Speedball, which is probably one of the best of them all. A couple others, Worms, which was one of the first systems ever to debut a Worms game on it. Lemmings, I think, might be on there as well. But there's one caveat with this mini. They're saying that you're going to be able to install other games, real old Amiga 500 games, via USB sticks, which is going to be another thing, which is going to be totally cool. Okay, they're also saying that it's going to support modern displays, 720p, 50 hertz or 60 hertz, and several scaling options with a CRT filter to make it look as authentic as possible, which is also really, really cool. So there's a quick video here. I mean, I don't really have to play that one because it's just kind of the introductory, but we do have a link directly here to Retro Games Limited, which is saying that they're now announcing the fact that this will be out and available on store shelves, but they're just waiting a little while. They still have to finish up some things. Now it's going to come with a classic Amiga mouse, which, if you guys don't know, the Amiga was brought to you by the Commodore Corporation, so it was basically the follow-up to the Commodore 64 and some other models that they had. Wildly popular in Europe. And actually, you know what? I think I'll just play this video right here real quick and see what they got.
Peggy 12.
Let's see what they got. These guys also make a Commodore 64 Mini that's been out for a while.
I think that was one of the first computers I ever used, was Commodore 64.
Yep.
Doom.
So many games. Speedball. Yeah, that does look like some fun now, doesn't it? Yeah, that is pretty cool. So,
Peggy 12.
Oh, they're going to replay it here. Don't want that again. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So that should be exciting. So now you didn't have a lot of experience with a lot of old retro gaming systems, did you? You weren't really into that fold, were you?
No, I played some games on the Commodore 64 as far back as that, but that's nothing earlier than that, really. Which was still pretty far back there, but yeah, nothing earlier than that. I mean, I did all the program your own games on Texas Instruments calculators. That was a thing, and obviously had all the Nintendos, all the way back to all the Nintendos. But had a Dreamcast. I mean, there was a Jaguar. I mean, some older ones, but not quite as old, maybe, as the.
I still have my Jaguar and all the 64-bit games that came out with that, because that was a huge thing back in the day. A couple other things that they say about this system that they have printed on their website here says it's going to emulate the Amiga 500, 600, and 1200 series. You're going to be able to save and resume your games at any time, which is kind of cool. Also, multiple scaling options for the CRT filter, which we already talked about. A virtual keyboard and USB keyboard support, which is even better. And the best part is upgradable firmware. So I'm so excited for this thing to come out, because I think it was the Battle of Britain was a game that LucasArts did a long time ago, which was basically an air battle game that was fantastic on this. There was a bunch of the first EA simulations, like the flight simulations. F-16 Fighting Falcon was actually one of the first systems I ever played this on. Was on that.
Oh, I had that. Yep.
So Formula, I think it was Monaco. No, not Monaco GP. It was Microprose Formula One, which was one of the first systems I ever played that on. Was on this, which I'm totally blown away. I can't wait for it to come out. I'm gonna find a way maybe to possibly pre-order this thing, but it looks like it's also gonna have HDMI, USB cables, USB Type C. There's a couple of other games that I want to get for the Commodore 64. I have to see how it's going to emulate inside of this, which is America's Cup, which is another great game that I loved back then. So, so much in that box, which totally excited for. So let us know what you think. If you're big Amiga fans, back in the day, there was the Atari ST, the Amiga 500. Those were huge competitors in Europe. So the guys over in Europe, the way I got mine was from a gentleman, a friend of mine who was from Sweden, and I bought it from him secondhand. So, I want it. I want it now. But hey, like, subscribe, follow. Let us know what you think. Super excited, and just wanted to bring that little tidbit of information out there as kind of a precursor of other things that we got going on. Okay. What else we got going on today? We got a couple comments ready from Mr. David.
Yeah, you want to talk about those?
All right, so David says, American politics going to play a massive role in EV adaptation in 2030. Politicians going to want all the union funds and votes from the traditional autos by the looks of it. Ooh, hey, you know what? We're gonna get to some of that exactly soon.
Yeah.
So do you want to go right to that topic now and then follow up with the Lamborghini?
Well, he's got another comment too. We can hit real quick because he's here. So. He said, "Yeah, you guys covered the flyover noise signatures of Joby.
Mm-hmm.
We did, and I think there was like 63 decibels at like 150 feet or something like that. But yeah, and then since they went SPAC, he's saying he's just a bit surprised they haven't popped a bit. I mean, true. There's still tons of news about that. There's some Lilium news that they just got in with a Brazilian company for quite a big order. I think it's $1 billion order for Lilium. So some big stuff going on in air taxis, but." I think a lot of people still don't know about it, to be honest with you. I know we talk about air taxis a lot on here.
Joby's actually down.
I'm just starting to see stuff in news, but not everywhere really.
Joby's actually down. Joby's down almost 2 full points, Joby Aviation. And that includes after they announced the fact that they surged in trading after the SPAC deal with Zynga and LinkedIn founders.
Didn't they just change their ticker too?
I don't think they changed the ticker, but I'm
there was some talk that they might lose some money because of the ticker change, I thought.
That's actually quite shocking to me that they didn't do better as a result either. And look, but here's the other thing. So far it's the big circle, right? They've got to prove the fact that they can go the distance. And look, I am knocking the fact that it went 150 nautical miles in a big circle, but I'm also waiting to see when it actually flies from point A to point B in a true mission style environment. There was a lot of great comments in the video, like the transitions, how it looked. But there's a lot more things that go into just making this thing perform one dog and pony show. It's got to prove that it's got the guts to make it the full course. And that means to be adaptable to a market that hasn't proven that they can bring the object to the market and the market's going to develop. The market has to be there already, and they've got to find suitable passengers, right?
We also mentioned, from the pilot's perspective, that we were interested in knowing a bit more about the specifics of that test flight.
Yes.
We obviously know the distance and the time involved, but we didn't know anything about payload. We didn't know anything about ambient conditions, battery health after, just basic stuff that from a pilot perspective we'd be interested to know about. And none of that was in there as well. So,
and somebody made a comment that, what were they really doing it for? Were they doing it for battery testing, so on and so forth? And we haven't answered that comment for a specific reason.
Right.
We wanted to look into more to find out if we could find specifics on what they were actually looking to prove, whether it was just basically, hey, look, we can navigate. It was a very well produced video. It would have been great to see more information on it, because as far as the device flying, we already knew it could fly. There's pictures of it flying. So there's that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the other part of it is it was unloaded. And, look, another thing that a lot of people don't...
It was, unmanned, yeah.
Look, we just did one on the Volocopter when it did its flyover in Oshkosh, right? And Corey was really keen to point out the fact that there was an FLI, first limit indicator, that was popping up on the screen.
Yes.
And as that was happening, you're going to see that when they load these things, and as those engines have to take that load in vertical mode or different flight formats or flight regimes where winds are coming from one direction or another, they're going to get loads that are going to be different from one side of the aircraft to the other. So what do you do with one engine that's working harder, that's upstream, and it's compared to others that are working less downstream, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you didn't catch that video when we did it, Mike and I were just talking about that. I saw in the video, it seemed when he came in, because you had some in vehicle shots when he was coming closer to land, and then he was kind of stationary for a bit. It appeared that there was a first limit indicator that showed temperature increases on something. We couldn't see what it was, but it seemed like they were quite concerned with some temperature of something, and that's what we were also saying. This as battery chemistry hopefully matures, there will be flight regimes and flight profiles where they'll be under the most amount of stress, and we're wondering what's going to be a limit for the current technology they have. Sure. Is it going to be how much they can output at a time? Are we going to see, as I said, temperature problems on whatever component they were monitoring? Is it the battery or the electric motors? I don't know. So because all that needs to be cooled, which will also take some electricity, which we've talked about that too. So there's a lot to go.
And one last thing to touch on David's comment is the fact that, look, you have to remember that Joby took this on themselves to go ahead, or Joby, right? Joby, I'm sorry, Joby. Took it upon themselves to go ahead and fly this in what they considered the ideal conditions. And that's not the way aviation totally works. Aviation doesn't work when you go fly in the most ideal conditions. Aviation should be an on-demand service that, if you're going to make it applicable, means that you're going to fly in not ideal conditions. And that entails a lot more than just one 150 nautical mile circular flight. Okay, great that they did it in the mountains. I'm sure it challenged itself with different wind conditions, different patterns, so on and so forth. But it took off and landed at the same site. There's not a lot of variables in there that you could really say that were affecting the flight of the aircraft. So as far as Joby's, what they're doing now, okay, I need to see more. Just the public stuff. You know, and I'm sorry that their stock isn't doing well, but again, we don't wish them any harm. We just want people to know. We want $2.6 billion worth of SPAC money, people to understand what that money means and how it's going to have to be spent in further developing that aircraft. So, all right. So now we'll go to David's other comment, I guess, because we'll hold off.
Yeah, you want to do that? Or, well, we've got...
Which one do you want to do?
Where do you want to put that? Where do you want the big one? Do you want to do the other one's first?
Let's do this one now. Let's just get it out of the way. What do you mind? Because they all kind of roll into it. You know what I also forgot to do before we do that, though? I forgot to bring your Foxconn article up into. I just realized it's not here.
Oh, into the thing. Do you want to do the car that is not electric first, and then move to all electric?
All right, hold on, wait. Let me get your other one up first, and then we'll do this one. Because
okay.
Because of the wonderful things he does.
Because
have to see the wizard.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Just give me a minute to get your Foxconn article up.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. All right. So I assume you're alluding to the Raging Bull.
The return.
Okay. Here you go. Yep. So you're gonna have the floor in 3, 2, 1, and it's all yours, brother.
Hello, and this next one comes to us. Actually, I did find the link straight from the bull itself on their website, and I have those links down there. The news is that there's a new Countach coming, a new Lamborghini Countach. It was unveiled on their website 11th of August, just yesterday. It's just a car with the cover on it, and then a video, which I'm sure you'll play here in a minute. So let me know when you start that. But other than that, the Lamborghini Countach first came out in 1974. It's got that little bit more of that blocky kind of look. It has those scissor doors. If you guys have seen it, you know what it is. So you're playing it? I can shut up. Yeah, cool.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna do one thing here. Hold on. Hold on. I have no audio control over this video. So you got to give me 1 second. You there? All right. Yeah, okay. When I hit this thing to go play, it's just going ragingly loud. So I just got to make sure it's not super loud. There we go.
What do you see?
It's playing.
A new image ready to be hung on a wall?
Yeah, we'll let it run.
Or the rebirth of a dream? The new Lamborghini Countach is coming.
Oh, the Raging Bull. That's kind of crazy. All right, go ahead. So what you were saying, I mean, they basically...
Yes. So they've got two teasers here that are saying in the remake of the Countach. They seem to be alluding the fact that it's going to be kind of just maybe a refresh, right? Because it doesn't seem like they're saying they like what they're looking back. It was very successful, and it seems like they're making a new Countach. For me, like when I look at the Countach, one of the first RC cars I remember having was actually a Countach. It was red, and that thing was fast and looked really cool, obviously. But yeah, the Lamborghini was another car. Actually, reminds me of the De Tomaso Panteras as well. So lots of good shapes back there, 60s, 70s. And if you were a fan of the old Lamborghinis, and anything like 60s, yeah, 60 kind of 70s, Countach is probably up there if you know. So we don't have a date or anything else with it. It's pretty new. Like I said, just announced on the website literally yesterday. So I could imagine it's probably gas. I wouldn't say anything about being electric powered, especially with some of the things that we've seen Lamborghini doing. They still got some, normal engine, or let's say naturally aspirated internal combustion engines. Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty interesting.
So I think there was a hint that someone said that there was a in the news that they said that there was a picture of the gas cap someone had taken a picture of. So they say that this might be their first integrated hybrid system with gas integration, but we can't use it because it's copyrighted material, so we couldn't use it. Number one. So that's pretty cool. But hey, man, this just speaks to the fact that if you weren't a fan of the Amiga 500, well, if you were a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, if you didn't have a Porsche 911 whale tail poster on your wall, Ferrari, not even an F40, but that, or
Countach.
Let's see, the Countach, or you had the Testarossa on your wall, okay? If you didn't have those posters at some point, or I know that at some point there was one with all three, or the 956, those are basically, the dream icon cards. And that's the best part for them to bring that out now, is for the people that are of the buying age that remember what the Lamborghini Countach was. And especially, what was it? Was it the Cannonball Run, famously featured two hot babes driving at the very, very onset of the actual on-screen action was a Countach. I believe it was black, the big V-fin in the back. And they were hauling butt.
It was a Cannonball,
and it was Cannonball Run, and they get out famously, and they have their licenses stuck in their what areas. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, this is what dreams are made of, right? That is some.
It's pretty cool to see. I mean, if you're into the typically V12 power plants, stuff out of Italy, they're pretty interesting. So,
sure. Yeah. All right.
We'll have to see. We'll keep track of
it. So they
said,
what are they gonna? They're gonna try and release some information on it. When did they say? Is it coming up at some? Was it Geneva?
I didn't see that.
I thought maybe they might say Geneva Auto Show or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember.
Let me see if I can find more. I didn't see
Would you
that.
Like to know more? God, this shirt is fitting weird today. Yes, I would.
Yes.
I feel like every time I look at myself in my colors.
I don't see it, man.
Okay,
I don't see it.
We'll look for it when it comes out. It'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, like, subscribe, share, follow, and enjoy, and hit that little bell so you guys get the notifications when we're on and when we go live, because much like the rest of the universe, we don't even know when we're going to go live.
Wow. Wow.
There you go. Wow. All right. So, on to the bigger discussion, which is kind of, hold on. I thought that was apropos. All right, we got a much bigger discussion on our hands. And David had just teased that the American politics are going to play a massive role in EV adaptation. So that's something we're going to talk about. Let's see. I put my money on needing it to be a mild hybrid. I agree. Last hurrah before electric crushes them.
Yeah. I would agree that it's going to have some kind of ICE engine in it.
I would imagine that, if they're really going to make a stab at this, the House of Porsche has gotten their Taycan Turbo, right? You have the e-tron for Audi, and Lamborghini being part of that stable and needs something in their electric, designs to I would say probably take some of that technology and bury it in with a hybrid, which would probably make the most sense. So I agree with both of you. There, we're in agreement. How's that? Excellent. Okay, next one. Hitting the one on top of the head that we have to talk about. All right. Let me take the floor here. So the Biden, House of Biden has turned around and said that they seek to make half of new U.S. auto fleets electric by 2030, which is a lofty goal, by no means. They're not knocking it. Great. Could be very fantastic for everybody involved. However, there's a couple of caveats that we have to discuss right off the bat, because this is an incredibly lofty goal. And it really, really, really beckons some conversation here. because this is some of the things that they put out there right off the bat. They want 10% more stringent emissions by 2023. So that's within 2 model years that the auto manufacturers have to kind of bring things together here, right? They also here in some other areas, they said that they wanted to have 50% of new cars sold that would be at some point, I think they said they want to be battery or fuel cell or plug-in hybrid are some of the ones that they include in those numbers. All right. Now, the other part of it is this is not a legally binding contract. Okay. It just won support of foreign automakers and U.S. automakers. Okay. And they said that it would require, and here's the caveat, billions of dollars in government funding. And they're not wrong. Because, notably, in that, right now, in that space of how much money is going to be required, there is $174 billion currently bound to this EV project that does not include infrastructure. And then there's probably going to be another $100 billion that's necessary for consumer incentives. All right. And now most of these guys, most of the manufacturers, General Motors, Ford, so on and so forth, they're all pretty much on board with this. They said in a joint statement that they aspired to achieve at least 40 to 50% of annual U.S. volume of electric vehicles by 2030. Okay. Which is great, and we've been covering new electric vehicles here on the channel for the last couple of weeks, including the new Ford Lightning, and imagine so that all the vehicles that are coming out so far have been more of the higher branded, higher priced vehicles that they know that they can get a premium for. Okay, but there's a mixed reaction, right? And this is where we really have to talk about some of the other things that are happening, because some people said that it wasn't enough, some people said it was too little, but then others said. Actually, Elon Musk didn't say anything because he wasn't invited, which is notable. So others also said that there's a problem because according to others, which is BMW and such, they said in a joint statement that it's great, it's a bold action, but they have to build consumer demand. Okay, so let's start the conversation right there. All right, and that's the part where they go into the fact that they called for $174 billion in government spending in EVs, and also another $7.5 billion in the new infrastructure plan for charging stations. Right? Can we do it? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I just want to say first off that as you look, if you go searching for information on this stuff changes quite often. It's quite fluid as politics change, of course. Until anything's actually signed and actually done, they're just talking about numbers and trying to get things through. So as we're looking through this, I know if you're interested in buying EVs, there's been EV buying incentives for new owners in the past. There's talk to make stuff like that even more expansive. Actually, it's something about if you buy a new vehicle, but it's also by a company in the U.S., but also a company that uses unions, you can get up to $12,005 per vehicle back on that. So that's actually a lot higher than like, for example, like I got. I was a new EV purchaser when I bought my Tesla Model 3. Just a standard long range one, and I'm quite happy with it, but I got a tax credit for that. There's been talk of making those not just tax credits, but actually a straight rebate, which depending on who you are might be more attractive, right? Of course, you don't get it back in your taxes, you get it straight back to you, which is something there. So these are all things that are valid, of course, with dollars and cents, but really what Mike's kind of talking about as well is infrastructure wise. Is this something we can do? And as far as the amount of companies that say they will be getting near 30, 40, 50% of their new car sales by a few decades from now, we can probably all agree the infrastructure is not there yet. And that's, of course, what this is half what we're talking about. There's been talks, and I know Mike will probably bring it up too. There's been talks that maybe some things that might work are more creative ways to do it, where we already have electricity provided for already out there in public use, like maybe making charging points available on maybe streetlights, depending on what city you're in, or depending on how it works on wherever your local jurisdictions can make it work too. I guess when we think about infrastructure as far as this volume of EVs that we're hoping or planning to get into the market, we're talking about when do we think is going to be the highest demand on the energy grid?
Sure. Which I'd like to address that.
Yeah, which you could probably go along and say, of course, whenever it's cheapest to
Mm-hmm.
charge. Some places have different charging rates. You might have that in your area. You might not. For me, my example where I am, that's not a thing. So it doesn't really matter
Not
what I
yet.
charge as far as the price to
Mm-hmm.
me, to my energy supplier. Um, and then of course just what would you say? The availability, like where can you actually get a
Sure.
charge, right? Because you could say, well, okay, I want to buy a new car. I'm gonna get some money back. That's all great. But I have nowhere to charge this thing, right? I can park my car maybe on the street where I don't have a place to park. I just park in the street.
So
Where
let
am
me
I
ask you a
gonna charge this?
question. If you were going to ask
So
a guy that had all the experience in the world about trying to build an EV platform and an EV car company, and you want to make this happen, that guy, who would you go to for those types of answers? Because my answer would be Elon Musk, right?
well, I'm not gonna go down your
No,
political
no, no, no,
rabbit
no,
hole
not
as
that.
far as why he wasn't
No, it's just
invited.
that because he had a
But
comment. It's not a political. It's nothing positive, right?
of course, no, he seemingly
He's
wasn't invited. I know he said that on
yeah.
Twitter,
He
which is what you're
said
getting
it's
at,
it
right?
was
Elon wasn't invited to
yeah.
this
The
signing.
the
So
electric expert in the room, and they didn't consult. It's just kind of interesting to me. No, but
and
hold
I
on.
mean, it kind of goes along with, I think Dave said something about it too. He said all the union jobs, and that is
I'm not going
something
there.
valid,
I'm
right?
not going there
Tesla's
yet.
currently. You want to do it?
No, no,
You want
no.
to do it?
Here's where I want to
You're
go.
talking.
I want to talk about something else because
Okay, all right. I'll turn it
yeah.
over.
So here's
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
thing. You hit on a couple of good points, right? The time of day that you can charge and how many. So first of all, let's take a look at right now what this number means as far as how many sales there are. Okay, that are EV vehicles worldwide. All right. So right now, according to a consulting firm, and this is a consulting firm, so take it with a grain of salt, they say that EVs right now make up only 2% of the sales market, but that could be about 24% by 2030 in its forecast. Okay. And that market share,
Those
those
are
are
global
global
numbers,
numbers,
right? You
right?
said.
Which is 330
Okay.
billion.
Yep.
So let's estimate that there's a 7% increase across the boards now over the next couple of years for the American buyer to go out and get EV vehicles. And you turn around and buy yours and you decide, hey, just like 7% of your local community, you all now have EVs. And everybody's been used to charging theirs comfortably at night, except now it's Florida, it's a heat wave. You've been enjoying these lovely, lovely, beautiful low rates on charging, and the best place to charge is in your own home. Mind you, most EVs to this point have been marketed after affluent buyers. The average asking price somewhere north of $70,000. Okay. And what I'm getting at is you don't have the infrastructure yet. You're going to be selling a lot of these cars. You're going to be pushing this whole wave through of the cars on the road before you have the infrastructure to absorb that type of electric usage through a grid that is built on downtime at night. Okay, so these grids that are, everybody goes home at night, they use a little bit less energy, but let's say after 10 o'clock at night, we start to see that wane because most communities and households, people go to bed. Fine, perfectly.
Right.
Great. But now all of a sudden you're going to up the demand and you're not going to give these grids, unless you rebuild the infrastructure, time to relax and breathe again. You're going to be pumping them 24/7 in order to make this happen much faster without putting something on paper about the infrastructure. And it takes half the time to design and build a new car than it does to put the energy and the infrastructure pieces in place to get these communities up to speed. So that's my biggest fear, right? Because the Fuse article that you pointed to here, which is actually fantastic, and we have a link to it right here. And if you want to go ahead and the one from the Fuse, if you want to talk about it, because they raised those very same questions about saying these are lofty goals. But the other thing is it's not binding. Okay, you have to build demand and you have to build the infrastructure to this be successful. These are 4 challenges that they already have. So go ahead. There's a lot to be said there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was gonna say, just tapping on what you said about the demand. It is gonna maybe take some creative. Well, first off, I'll say as an EV owner, it does take a bit of a learning experience for your own self to realize how you use an EV car, in the sense that what I'm getting at is, your gas car, You drive it until you need gas, which you're below a quarter tank, and some people drive it more than that, of course, till the lights on, and then they go get fuel. That's not what I would recommend for an EV owner. You would want to keep it not totally topped up, because we might get into battery chemistry and keeping the longevity of the health of the battery. But the point being is you kind of want to top up your battery whenever you have a chance. And so it's more about charging often and lower amounts rather than charging all the way all the time. That helps you also for just the time you're going to spend at the pump currently, or time you'll spend at the charging station. Because you go to the gas pump and you put gas in your car for a few minutes, maybe 2, and then it's totally full, and you can go 400 miles or whatever. In currently EVs, you can get a fast charge on many of these newer EVs, and 30 minutes you can have nearly full battery, depending on how much you have. So I guess where I'm going with that is they're going to have to think about where they want to place these charging stations for public use in such a way that they can give the people more spread out opportunity time-wise over the day, so that there's not, like you said, a single demand, like bam, always at one time a day, which would pose the most stress on the system. And I can, thinking, geez, I mean, you talk about people in the north when it gets really cold and they got heaters on at night, if they're using electric heaters rather than, some other type of propane or whatnot. I mean, geez, yeah, at night you heat your house and go to bed with your gas car. What if you're charging your car and your neighbor's charging his car and his neighbor's charging his car and you all got the electric heater running too, all at night in the winter?
That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm totally along with you. So I get
but
that.
here's
So
the other thing,
it's going to take some creative thoughts on how they
so only 9.7% of households in U.S. cities have access to a public EV charging station with 1/4 of a mile from home. Now, here's the problem that I also have with this, right? You have to turn a lot more people into homeowners to solve part of this problem, because right now, early adopters have all been, for the most part, unless it's an electric hybrid, which plugins have come in recently, right? So the other issue being...
Oh, you mean just the battery.
Because if you have a plug-in electric vehicle, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say you have a garage. And if you have a garage, that's where you charge it at night. And if you're going to open up even a percentage, let's just say 1/3 of those sales, because they said they could be battery electric, 1/3 of those sales will have to be households. Now, if you haven't built the infrastructure between the outskirts of town and it's over 75 miles from town, and you only have a range of 250 nautical miles, and someone has to actually go into town, and there's no route for them to get there, problem. You've just lost a sale, because they're obviously going to buy something that's gasoline powered, right? Yep. So it's almost like...
I think you've hit that exactly on the head. Exactly that point. Not so much just what you said, like where to put them, but also the fact that you won't get the sales. Is what you said before. I know. I'm just kind of back to what you said. As far as if the infrastructure's not there, the people that maybe want an EV are just not going to.
And that's the thing. So you're gonna throw out, and here's my problem. Here's my big issue. It's not the fact that we can't take initiatives, and it's not the problem that we can't find ways to change the environment. It's got nothing to do with that. It means we're going to be putting a burden on the infrastructure first, rather than build the infrastructure and then expect the vehicles to come. So it's lofty goals, but we need to build the infrastructure first, so that you can comfortably have that type of situation where things work out. Problem that we just had in Texas over this past winter was an extreme cold spell, and they couldn't keep the lights on. And it's happened in California before. Okay. And the difference is, what are the rates going to increase in electricity demand? Excuse me. What's the rate of demand that's going to increase? And what's the rate that your bill is going to go up when that rate of demand goes up? Because suddenly your electric bill might not be the same as what it once was, when everybody else is clamoring for the same amount of electricity at the same time. Might not work out.
And I may also point out just a thought as I'm thinking here, when you talked about, needing extra heating, and I just said extra heating too. I'm thinking also extra cooling. There's people I know that live in the Northwest that have never had air conditioning ever year round. They just never had air conditioning, and they're talking to me and saying we may put an AC system in a house because it's so freaking hot now. And if you guys have been keeping up with some of the weather news over the past few months, you'll know we had those heat domes, they call them. If you can look that up too. But the really extreme heat that kind of just hangs around a particular area to do with jet stream movement. But anyway, I mean, so hot in some places that some of the over electric cables that run those trolleys in some of the downtowns literally melted the copper in some of those places, because they weren't designed for that kind of heat. And so where I'm going with that is, we're going to have an even higher demand on just cooling in some places. I mean, the EVs, it's going along with all this infrastructure as far as supporting EVs, which is why we're talking about it, of course. But while I'm talking, I'll pass it to you. But I did want to say, anybody in chat or watching the video later, let us know in the comments below if you guys have an EV. What kind of, like, is it plug-in or is it hybrid or whatever? Because I'm interested to know. And then also, how do you guys charge it? Like, at your work or only at your house? Or I know one of my neighbors, he's got a garage, but they don't charge every day, and she only goes to a local charging station nearby, and she charges there every 3 or 4 days. So I know there's even some people that could charge at their house just still don't. So yeah, let us know in the comments how you guys use your EV if you've got one, and then what you think about having maybe all of your neighbors nearby. If 50%, 60% of them were going to buy EVs, how's it going to work? Like,
I don't know.
In your area.
So here's the other thing. If you're a renter, right? If you're a renter, it's the same thing as I never had a gas pump in my house, right? And I know a lot of people would make that comment saying, well, you never had a gas pump in your house. Well, the difference is it literally takes me 5 minutes, and I can plan that in with almost no impact to my daily operation of my vehicle to go get gas, right? It's literally, I have to drive past the place anyhow, I bump it in there and it goes. Now, the difference is when you turn around and you say, well, now you got a half an hour every week that you've got to plan in for charging your EV to keep it at the point where you're only doing local traveling. Okay, understood. Just like you said, if I am now a renter of an apartment, that might be applicable to me if I live in a place like downtown Orlando and there's multiple charging stations in a locale that I can reach. However, push me 50 miles away from one of those charging stations, and again, I'm no longer a buyer of that EV vehicle. I'm now looking at an electric hybrid. Okay, push me further than that, and if the infrastructure isn't there, I'm not a buyer of that product anymore. So they're talking about right now with EVs only comprising, like we said earlier, almost 2 to 3% of the marketplace, that strong incentives are going to be necessary for widespread EV adaptation. Okay, this is my last caveat. Then there's there really a market for EVs right now? Because it has to be, if you have to prop up the market with so much money in order for people to find it applicable to go through the inconvenience of becoming either A, early adopters, or B, waiting on the infrastructure to catch up, do you really have an EV market? Because to me right now, it sounds like you're going to be pouring in money from the manufacturing end, you're going to be pouring money in from the government end, and you're going to hope that the demand in the middle meets and someone goes, I really need an EV today.
I'm hearing what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I'm thinking to myself, if we don't try to move any direction, I'm saying this as a general idea, right? If we don't try to move in a general direction, or at least give people the idea that this is an option, because people tend to not want to change anyway, as just a general, not a rule, right? A human nature rise, but people may just continue to do what they've always done because that's kind of how we usually end up doing. So I'm wondering if you kind of have to make incentives. I'm thinking not always, of course. People, market drives, or rather demand drives, interest and investment a lot of times too. So, and as you're talking a minute ago about also, like, is there really a market? I'm also thinking to myself too, just, the elephant in the room, COVID has changed the way a lot of people work. And I know many people that used to go to the office a lot, as their job, they go to the office, right? And I know a lot of those people now work from home full time. And it's been working for them, which is good, of course. But their companies, some of them, not all of them, of course, but some of them have said, well, we actually are figured out how to make this work from home. So we're actually downsizing our assets in the office itself. And so, maybe they're going to have 50% of the workforce in 50% of the time, or maybe they're 100% telework. So I guess that goes back to not only is there an EV demand, but also how much demand for those people is there for a new car if they're not driving much at all.
Your car's going to last longer if that's the case. And the other thing is, look, it's changed people's travel habits. Travel habits have changed because people that were maybe not willing to get on airplanes anymore are foregoing it, right? And they're saying, oh, well, maybe it's better for a drive, which all of a sudden means that they are going to put a longer distance demand on their vehicle. Look, and again, everyone, I want a lot of people out there to understand something, because if you've stayed long enough for this part of the conversation, you need to hear this. I play devil's advocate, and the reason why I play devil's advocate is because if you think you're in a big hole now, and you're going to throw a lot of money at a solution, but that solution doesn't fix the initial problem, or the market doesn't develop, you've literally just thrown the money away, because there's other areas that were going to impact global greenhouse gases and things that do need to be looked at as serious alternatives, right? So right now, just saying the word EV and throwing money at it may not be the greatest solution. And if others are already raising a slight red flag about saying, look, you really have to understand that it's a complex situation, but there's so much money. We're talking about $2.2 billion in S-Packs for EV tolls. You're talking about 400 times that going into this from both ends of the spectrum of people trying to develop this market. Okay. And
it's funny you said about EV tolls. But literally,
no, go ahead. No. That's a lot of money. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, you literally just said EV tolls, and I was thinking to myself, that was the next thing I was going to mention was, as we talk about all the infrastructure that needs to go into these cars, I just take a sidestep and say, remember all the volume of the number of cars and all the raw materials that would go into making all those new cars, and then let's think, we're also trying to build a brand new sector of industry for air taxis, though that also going to be electric or hybrid, right? But also electric. And so the demand on raw resources for at least batteries in this case, not steel and aluminum and all the other things that might make it, but talking the battery elements is the same. And we have another article down there about batteries, but we'll maybe get to that. But I mean, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there too, as we talk about all the stuff about charging EVs, ground-based EVs. Let's not forget another huge part of our channel is talking about air taxis, and battery tech is in there right away as well, which
look,
maybe mid to long term could have impact on the range of EVs, which we hope as battery density increases and general battery technology. But all the things we talked about and Mike's brought up too, and myself with the concerns we have are also valid.
Right.
So, yeah.
So look, and look, there's a great comment from David in chat, which is fantastic, which he says, we're on the EV adaptation curve. Subsidies are going to prop up internal combustion engine manufacturers to stop going bankrupt. It's quite so quick. And they have to. Look, it almost seems like within a 9-month period, we've transitioned to every major manufacturer jumping on board from when California said that they were going to change the fact of they wanted so many EVs in their system by a certain period of time, which is great. Okay. Again, don't misunderstand the message. We're not saying this is bad. We're not saying this is terrible. We're saying, be prepared, because you're creating a terrible chain of events downstream if you don't address the infrastructure first. If you want the EVs, great, but make sure you're doing it in the most sound way so you don't blow the money that you're willing to spend your wad on getting the market to develop. That's it. Be buyer beware, because for me, precious metals are going to be important. Recycling is going to be important. Corey has been numerously on a weekly basis bombarding me with battery technologies that we can't always get all that stuff on the show about what the recyclability. Like you said, there's an article that he put down below that kind of goes along with the conversation. There's so much, and people are inundating you with information right now, right? It's everywhere. Right. So buyer beware, because look, and here's another one, because a company like GM is going to tease you with certain things. Right.
Yep.
And they're teasing with the next Silverado that we said is going to probably take after the Hummer dynamics. It's going to use the Hummer onboard platform right there. And they're saying it's going to have 4-wheel steering. So they're wanting to bring all this this huge amount of innovation to the marketplace. But there's caveats. Can we do it? It's big questions. Huge.
Yep.
So I don't
know. I don't know if I have any more to add for this particular one today. I mean,
no, neither do I.
Yeah, we as Mike said too, we don't misunderstand all of our comments on this particular article, because we do very much want to see innovation and improvement with transportation, whether it's on the ground or in the air, because we are quite interested in both sectors. So it's just that we hope, we hope we wouldn't see everybody run out and buy AVs, and then there is an extreme line wherever you charge because you can't charge, and then everybody's got buyer's remorse, or they see the writing on the wall ahead of time, at least in their area, and don't buy an EV anyway. So
or they lease one for 2 years and then dump it after 2 years, and they're looking for another internal combustion engine vehicle, which doesn't exist because no one's been looking forward to producing a more efficient internal combustion engine for the last 5 years. And then we go, oh, we made a big mistake. And maybe it's Look, I think in the future, what you really have to have is you probably have to have a space where 50% of the vehicles, literally 50% of the entire fleet of America or the world, are still internal combustion and 50% are EV. And I think that's a balance that we might come out to as a planet. I don't know. I'm spitballing on this one, but I think that that might be a place where we go, hey, you know, the carbon footprint offsets this by so much, and we save so much here and we lose so much there, that becomes a reality. You don't know. Right, it's something that you're going to find in the minutia of the development of all these things. So there you go.
Yeah, lastly for me too, I was just going to touch on the same thing you said there about going 100% electric with all vehicles in all industries. I just don't think it's going to work either.
No.
I also would like to see more EVs, and to be done in a smart way. But I'm just thinking, and they might be fringe cases, but it's nevertheless valid. If I was to think, okay, give me an example of something you don't ever think would be electric. If you know about how they do mining for raw materials in certain places, they have those giant pits, and they have the large excavators and the huge trucks that drive all the raw material off somewhere. I just don't see those giant trucks being fully electric, and a lot of the heavy equipment in some of those places and other industries. I just don't see.
They would.
Maybe I could totally be wrong, because Tesla's making the actually now.
Well, hold on. No, wait. You're right, because look, they want to make all airplanes, EVs by 2050. And here's the problem: the biggest problem with long-range aviation is weight. You can't take all that fuel with you and all those batteries unless batteries become microscopic or you become land-based in powering them. It's a huge burden to carry all that extra weight, all that distance. So there's going to be other places where it might not work. That's all. And the same thing goes for long-distance trucking. You might find out, even if you put things on, supposed rails, that carrying around those batteries at a certain point, maybe after 500 miles, it doesn't bear fruit to do long distance hauling with that much weight because you kill your cargo load. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say about the trucks real quick. Was I don't have the article down below for you guys, but I just saw an article that Tesla was working out new charging technologies for their semis that they're working on. So I already know the semis supposed to go 600 miles, maybe a bit further than that. And it was always like, oh, how do you? Okay, they go that far, then what? Like,
right.
How do you get them to go more range? And they, I can try to find it, but it's basically the wireless charging that you already know you can use wireless charging in your phone and other places. They're working on wireless charging that
built into the road,
crazy fast, literally like supercharger speed, but for the semis. So they can charge the semi battery full up in like 30 minutes.
That would be pretty cool, which is enough time to get a burger.
Which is all wireless. So you just drive over, park,
walk away.
Yeah. So, but again, that's neither here nor there. Maybe for another conversation. But there you go. Anyway,
look, I got to get out of here. So thanks everybody for participating. We appreciate all the comments. David, keep them coming. Keep us honest. Keep the comments rolling in the videos that we produce. Everybody like, subscribe, follow if you can. We appreciate it so much. We know, and look, we know we're not perfect on everything. We know we're not looking for the 100% answer of every question that's out there in the marketplace. What we are is we're the open discussion, and we're the place where you come for open discussion. And if you have an opinion, let us know. And we're willing to listen to everything, because it's not going to take one person to solve this. It's not going to take one opinion. It's not going to take one perspective. It's going to take multiple, and it's going to take some hardcore falling on your face, because every time you fail, you get a little closer to success, but there's going to be a couple of failures along the way. That's the way it is. All right. You got anything else to add?
That's all.
All right.
Now. Thanks,
everybody have a great night. And if you are into racing games, remember, Art of Rally has released on the Xbox for Game Pass users. So get excited, because I am. All right, cool. We're out of here.
Sweet.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great afternoon. Peace out.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Now you're lagging behind on the video. It sounds like, looks like Skype has gotten slow. Skype. I should be able to hit a button so I can cue music in your headset so you can hear it.
That'd be cool.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for showing up. We appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.